Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here, welcome back to the channel. Just a super quick update here. I wanted to talk about one of the charts that we look at on this channel quite often, a very important leading market indicator. This is of course the iShares TIP ETF. If you're a veteran of the channel, you'll remember that we were looking at this back on the 31st of August when the TIP ETF on the top of the screen broke down into new lows. If you want the fundamentals, the iShares TIP ETF is basically a set of treasury bonds, and it is treasury inflationary protected securities. Hence the name TIPS. Often when there are changes in inflation, when there's changes in interest rates, the treasury inflationary protected securities start pricing this in, and then the rest of the market soon follows. So if you look at what happened on the 31st of August, the TIP ETF broke down long before Bitcoin did, and it broke down long before the stock market did. In fact, it took 30 days for the stock market to follow and break down into new lows. And obviously the Cowboy family, we were calling for this as the TIP ETF broke down to the downside. I want to talk about something very interesting that is going to be coming up literally in the next 2 days and how I think it's going to affect the TIP ETF. Let's dive right into this. So what I've done is I've gone over to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange FedWatch tool, and I've basically highlighted all of the previous FOMC interest rate decisions, and I've highlighted them with these vertical green lines over on the TIP ETF screen. Now, why this is important is the Treasury inflationary protected securities, yes, they are meant to protect against inflation. However, if interest rates rise fast enough where the TIP ETF's price declines enough to offset the CPI inflation adjustment, then the total returns for the iShares TIP ETF or any TIP ETF in general will be negative. And often this is what's been happening. We've been having, as you know, some pretty big monumental increases in the interest rate, 75 basis points, 75 basis points, 75 basis points on all of these dates. And as you can see, if we highlight over here, 4th of May, interest rates were increased. What happened on the TIP ETF? It broke down to the downside into new lows. We continue to break down to the downside into our next FOMC meeting, looking like we priced this one in. But you can see the next day or so we broke down, had a dead cat bounce, and then we kind of just kept on chopping around these new lows. The next interest rate decision was over here, 27th of July. We did manage to have a quick fake out for 2 days after the FOMC meeting. Sometimes we do have these pumps before the dump. A lot of the time you can see on the day of the FOMC, we pump and we break down, and it's, you know, the same over here. We pump and we break down, we pump and we break down, and this is, you know, it happens time over time again. Over here, 21st of September, had a 75 basis point increase. We broke down into new lows. Over here, 3rd of November, 75 basis point increase, we broke down to the bottom of the channel. And in the next 2 days, as I'm sure you're aware, well, tomorrow, we've got our CPI data coming out, both for core and headline inflation. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be having Fed commentary. We're going to be having the next FOMC decision. And if you've watched my previous video, it was over here, This Week in Crypto. We talked about how, in my opinion, I think inflation is going to come in hotter than expected based on the Cleveland Fed estimates. And, you know, looking at this, we've got 2 days until we have our next interest rate decision. And what's happening right now, as you can see, I've highlighted this in red. We've got a very, very nasty bear flag breaking down into new lows. We chopped around. We had a fake out. We broke above the top. And now it seems like we're getting thrown back into the bear flag ahead of the upcoming FOMC meeting. And you can see this was the case over here. You know, we had a throw out of the bear flag. We had a fake out. Interest rates came out. And then we got booted all the way back down to the downside. So this market scenario and this market scenario, not 100% in correlation, but I do see about a 90-95% correlation between these two events. And in my opinion, looking at what's going to happen next for the iShares TIP ETF, I do believe that we're going to be starting to break down to the downside. But wrapping up this video, in addition to the iShares TIP ETF looking like it wants to break down into the next FOMC date, you can also see the stochastic RSI is sitting around about the heart line and has a lot of room to move to the downside. You can see the money flow index is also turning down from a green trend. And as you can see, we've got a high, we've got a lower high, and we've got a lower high. And when we come down to these bearish moves, you can see we've got lows and we've got lower lows. So it seems in general, we're kind of shifting towards more bearish territory. And it looks like we're currently being pushed down into that next bearish wave ahead of the incoming FOMC meeting in 48 hours. And also the money flow index as well. I mean, look at this. We are currently sitting around about 64, and we quite recently topped out at 70. I made a video a little while ago, well, about half an hour ago, so talking about the global liquidity crisis, and also, you know, when you're looking at monetary conditions, liquidity conditions across the board, not just in the stock market, not just in crypto, but, you know, all across the board, liquidity conditions are extremely overextended, and it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if we do start breaking down for the TIP ETF ahead of that next FOMC date. And even on that next FOMC date, I do believe we're going to break down into new new lows very, very soon for the iShares TIP ETF. And of course, like we said, this is a leading indicator for the stock market, and the stock market will soon follow. So all I've got for you for this episode, my friends, as always, if you do enjoy this content, let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. Share the videos with your friends. If you do want to follow me over on Twitter, it is here at 618_cowboy. And also, if you're not already a member of the Discord, make sure to come and join. Just click on my YouTube and click on the About page, and you can see I've got my official links for my Twitter, Discord, Instagram, and official merch all down below. So all I've got for this episode, my friends, as always, Cowboy out. Peace.